Welcome. This is Jordan Buckner with Foodbevy, the online community for food and beverage founders. Today, I'm talking with Rachel, co-founder and CEO of Seed in the Mill Artisanal Halva Tahini. So Rachel, thanks so much for being on. I'd love for you to start at the beginning of introducing yourself, the company, and a little bit more about why you got started.
Thanks, Jordan. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody in the Foodbevy community. So Seed and Mill was started in 2016, and we opened a little store in Chelsea Market in the middle of Manhattan, New York. And our goal when we first opened was to introduce products like tahini, halva, sesame seed, based spices and a sesame ice cream. We wanted to introduce these products that are very loved and familiar abroad, particularly around the Middle East and the Mediterranean, but to introduce them to a new audience here in the US. As you can hear, I'm not an American myself. I'm an Aussie. I moved to New York in 2014. Having started my career in a totally different world, different sphere. I spent 18 years as a lawyer. But really, I was an entrepreneur or a food entrepreneur, sort of trapped in the body of a lawyer. And food is my real passion. And it was an opportunity to move to a new country, start something new. I moved here with my family, my husband, my kids, and kind of started something small that kind of grew really beyond where we ever imagined it would go. And here we are 5 years later with a much bigger business and a much bigger brand.
That's amazing. So I know starting a business is a walk in the park. Just kidding. Talk about some of the challenges that you've experienced over the past couple of years starting your business.
I mean, I was 39 when I started this business, and I don't think until you've really owned and worked in a small business, I don't think anyone really truly understands how 24/7 it is. And it's like having a baby. I already had two babies, and then I like to think that I kind of birthed a third, because you know, when it's your business, your brand, you really think about it 24/7. You care deeply. Every email that comes in from a customer, I would personally respond to. Every kind of step of the way, I had to learn a new skill. So it was, how do I run a payroll? How do I build a website? How do I get on Amazon? How do I navigate social media? You know, I didn't grow up like my kids have grown up using all of those platforms very intuitively. So trying to acquire all of those skills and learn on the job has been a pretty big challenge.
So in kicking off 2020, at least, I know for us and other brands, the year looked like it was going to shape out to be a really great one in terms of growth. And then COVID happened. So talk about some of the challenges that your business experienced around COVID and how you've been able to manage and kind of pivot through that.
Yes, it's been quite a year, hasn't it? and we're only halfway through. I don't say that ominously. Let's hope that the remaining part of 2020 is up, not down. But you know, so at the beginning of 2020, we were already on our way towards diversifying our sales channels. And I think this is both a good thing and a bad thing for a business like ours. So when we first opened 5 years ago, we were a small brick and mortar physical store in Chelsea Market, and that was it. And a few months after we opened, we started a website. So we slowly started to grow an e-commerce direct-to-consumer channel. And then we had Whole Foods that came knocking to us, actually. We were very lucky. They approached us because they didn't have a clean label halva brand, that they wanted to sell halva, but they hadn't found a product in the US that they felt had a clean enough ingredient label. They discovered us and they wanted to work with us, and that sort of took us on the path of opening up a bit more of a CPG sales channel. And then we had chefs approaching us saying, hey, we hear you sell great tahini. We want to sell your tahini in our restaurant. And that sort of opened up a food service channel. And I guess in industry speak, you call that omni-channel, I think, is what is the technical term for it. And that has both pluses and minuses. And so, you know, trying to be all things to all people, or to sell to so many different types of customers, is not always that smart when you've got a very small team. We're a team of three. So trying to really be in each of those spheres is been hard. But having said that, thank God we were in multiple channels, because come 2020, when our physical store closed, thank God we already had other places that we could lean into, and we had that diversification already in place. So we closed our physical store and we really worked hard to work on e-commerce, and that grew. And we sort of had like a bit of a spike with e-commerce. I'd say that sort of slowed because people for 3 months were only buying everything online. Now they're back to venturing out, back into the grocery stores a bit more, feeling a little bit more comfortable outside. We obviously lost all of our restaurant customers, but we've really picked up sales in direct grocery channels. So Fresh Direct in New York, or Baldor is a big food distributor. They pivoted their business to being a direct to consumer business, and we're sort of piggybacking off a lot of those opportunities. So I guess that's a very long-winded way of saying that diversification has really helped us, and we've really leaned hard into other opportunities that were already there.
I know we've had a lot of uncertainty this year. How are you planning or forecasting your strategy over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of where you want to grow your business?
I mean, we are actually, our strategy was always to grow those grocery chains, to be more of a CPG brand. That was already our strategy. We also were always wanting to really grow that direct to consumer e-commerce business. So even though it's hard to know what the world's going to look like in 6 months, already that's where we wanted to be. And my feeling is that our physical store in Chelsea Market's probably going to stay quiet for at least 6 to 12 more months. I think I've written off 2020 as a brick and mortar business, and I'm just really continuing to grow the channels that we were already hoping to grow. I think the big challenge is, how do you find those customers? Because we used to go to the Fancy Food Show or Expo West, and those big trade shows we used to meet people in person have disappeared for now. So the big challenge is, how do I connect with potential buyers? How do I tell them our brand story? How do I get products over to them? How do they meet me? How do they taste and get that cedar mill experience? So that's hard.
Yeah, I imagine, I know on both the buyer side and on the consumer side, right, your product really has to be experienced and taste for people to really understand it. Have you started brainstorming any ways of getting that trial or getting your product into people's hands?
I mean, that's been a very disappointing outcome from losing our Chelsea Market location, because at the market we had 20 different flavors of halva on display, and we would taste test all of them. We would give out lots of samples of our ice cream. It was a real discovery point for both direct buyers and grocery buyers, and that's actually where Whole Foods found us. I mean, they were just wandering through Chelsea Market, and the forager, she's now left Chelsea Market, but her name's Ellie Truesdale, and she was the head forager, which is such a cool title. And she just found us and discovered us and chatted to us at the customer. It was a really natural meeting point. It wasn't manufactured. It wasn't strategic. It was just like a beautiful serendipitous moment. And those moments are lost right now. So trying to recreate that, I'll be really honest, we've got ideas, but there's nothing that's really jumping out to us that really recreates those moments. I think all we're really doing is reaching out over email, making the most of Zoom, trying to network in a virtual way as much as we can. But virtual networking is, just has its limitations, certainly from a taste point of view, obviously.
Advice would you give an emerging food or beverage brand that's looking to get started based on everything that you've learned from your journey so far?
Love to give this particular piece of advice that was shared with me actually by another entrepreneur called Gordon Crane. I love Gordon. He started an apple juice business called Apple and Eve. Very, very, very successful juice brand. And I met him once in Manhattan, and he said to me, Rachel, running a food business, or really running any business, but particularly food, it's like climbing a mountain, but don't expect that when you get to the top of that mountain, you're going to enjoy the view. You're going to climb really, really, really hard. You're going to get to the top. You'll enjoy the view, but enjoy it for about 3 minutes because you're going back down, and you're going into the valley, and you're going to sit in the valley, and you're going to have to live with sitting in that valley for a while, because inevitably it's just going to be one long kind of series of mountaintops and valleys, and there'll be many more mountaintops, but they're going to come, and you're going to go down and up and down, and just kind of accepting that and not fighting that and not dealing with every crisis. Every single day for me running Cedar Mill, there's not a crisis, but there is something that goes really, really wrong and really, really right every single day. And I've just stopped fighting and getting stressed by that, and just accepted that that's just part and parcel of running a business. And I know that what feels like a crisis today, tomorrow will be solved, and I'll be on to the next one. So you really have to have the resilience in you to, one, accept it, persevere, keep going, and try. I don't like to say enjoy the ride, because it's a bit of a cliche. It sucks. Like, when I'm in the middle of a crisis, it really sucks. And I don't want somebody saying, enjoy the ride. It's like, it's not enjoyable, but just know that it passes.
All right, well, perfect. Rachel, the co-founder of See the Mill, thanks so much for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure, Jordan. It's great to chat. See you later.